This symbolizes the fear of our natural mind. Our natural mind is what Buddhists call is every human being has a Buddha in there, and we are like sleeping Buddhas. That's why we say we have potential to become enlightened person.
The monks from Drepung Monastery, and we visited there. They are the same monks that were at the Van Wezel doing the Mandala project. But this monk in this photo was from a Drepung Monastery in Tibet. And Drepung monks were warrior monks. They were not merely spiritual students of the scriptures. They had one of the first printing presses in Tibet, and during the Chinese occupation they printed a lot of leaflets that they hung up all over Lhasa protesting the invasion. And many of those monks were jailed for more than 25 years. And in this photo, this particular monk was one of those monks jailed for 25 years.
As they create the mandala throughout the week, it's opening ceremony, creating the mandala, and then they will send it off into the Gulf, the children are going to have an opportunity to interact with the monks and ask them questions and, you know, look at the mandala, the sand mandala up close. And so the whole idea around, you know, arts integration specific to this experience is that you don't want to have these field trips in isolation. What you want to do is you want to add texture to the learning experience, and you do that in various layers. The first would be obviously learning who the monks are, you know, very little, you know, just a little bit about, you know, Tibet and why they're coming here, what they're going to be doing, and then you really get into what the mandala process is going to be during the residency at the Van Wezel and what the whole theme is. And the theme really is impermanence and detachment. If you spend it all in your writing, if your teacher gives you a great writing assignment and you dig deep into it and you give it your best, does that mean you have nothing left to give her? Of course not. Of course not.
So suffering, all suffering comes, we Buddhists say, suffering comes from ignorance of not knowing the reality of all the substances, all the phenomena. Then we project different things, you know, different levels. Then we get attached and get all this obsessed and develop all those negative things. Then life becomes miserable, suffering, suffering, suffering.
How can you use what just happened here as a metaphor for a piece of writing that maybe you've become so attached to, you only move a comma.
Let it go.
Yeah, baby! Here we go. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go.
My name is Judy Levine, and I work in the education department at the Van Wezel Performing Arts Center here in Sarasota. And I was really excited when the Tibetan monks were coming, because I work with the Artists in Residence program, putting artists into the schools, working with youngsters and coordinating the curriculum with what is coming to the Van Wezel. So it's arts integration. And Tibet is one of my favorite places in the world. It was a real turning point for me. And I was lucky enough, while I was teaching full-time in New Jersey, to get a Dodge Foundation grant. And my friend Carol Chesick, also an artist and sculptor, we decided we wanted to spend our Dodge Foundation grant going to Tibet and documenting the art and people.
This center of heaven, this core of the earth, this heart of the world fenced round with snow. Although this poem was written in 8th century Tibet, I could feel the presence of the force that inspired it as I traveled through this magical land. I saw the drama of Tibet in the faces of the people, in the monuments, ruins, and in the vast stretches of mountains and plains. The power of nature with its breathtaking beauty, coupled with its extreme harshness, will remain in my memory always. I hold in my heart the image of a hand outstretched in friendship and the welcome and warmth that greeted me time after time.
In the beginning of time, there was a well. And around the well, there was a whole troop of monkeys. And all the monkeys were gathering around the well because, you know, water is very precious. The sun went down, and it became a beautiful, cool night. And the magnificent full moon rose over the horizon, and it's a queen of the monkeys, looked up to the sky and said, "Look at the moon! Look at the moon!"
We're going to present our first workshop on mandala making, the history of Tibet, the culture of Tibet, the folk tales, the prayer flags, all of it.
And then the queen of the monkeys decided she was thirsty, and she looked into the well and let out a cry. "Look, look," she said. "Look, look! The moon has fallen into the well!" Oh.
And then these teachers will have the opportunity to go back to Booker and introduce their students to this. I think the sharing of cultures is the best way to understand each other.
If you could, at each table, maybe hold up your mandala and
There's the well. See the black hole going down to the center. There's my monkey. The moon's reflection, of course, was in the water. All the other monkeys took one good look, and they all agreed the moon had fallen into the well. And so the queen leant and couldn't reach. So she turned around and asked monkey number 1 for a hand.
If we understand that my mandala is the North American sand painting circle, is the stained glass window in my church, we can find these connections easily. And I think concentrating on our similarities is better than concentrating on our differences.
Now, monkey number 3, reach out and grab the branch of a nearby tree. Here, I'm here, I'm here. And so they went deeper and deeper and deeper, and then the branch of the tree snapped, and all the monkeys fell into the well. Down you go, monkey. And they drowned. You can ask the students, let's put a visual illustration to the verbal, to the action. All of my work is based on that ancient Chinese proverb that says, I hear and I forget. I see and I may remember, but I do and I know. It's a different level of understanding.
There's always a bell that rings at certain times. It signifies a lot of different things. But what I decided to do with Judy Levine was that we would determine for the children to do something that would be called a joyful noise. Okay, and because the monks want peace and well-being and joy for the world, I thought this would be a way to do this.
It's used in the monasteries for prayers. It signifies it's time to pray. And Judy Perky, one of the artists in residence, and myself worked at Tatum Ridge Elementary School, and we made bells for the monk project. And this would signify a demonstration that it was time to go from one technique to another and gather up and take a look.
That looks like, doesn't look right. That paint doesn't.
You don't need to paint the inside, only the outside.
Won't dry very well.
You didn't see it.
This is how your bell will be finished, okay? And what's going to happen is I'm going to give each of you a very beautiful piece that's a clanger. Do you know what a clanger is? Yes, ma'am. A clanger is something that's going to clang.
We just did Tibetan bells because we saw the Tibetan arts and culture at the Van Wezel. It was a really fun project where we had a slab of clay and then we made it into the shape of a bell. And then we painted it and then put the clappers on it, so it was a pretty fun experience. Men came on with these different instruments which no one would recognize, and they played them. They walked around in a circle, and then they just kind of walked out of the stage. And then after that, these men, they started singing really, really deep. They took advantage of some kind of thing in their throat, some kind of fold, and that allows them to sing quite low.
First, monks were like playing their instruments, and then like these two person were like dancing.
They didn't even like speak our language or anything, and they were wearing like these cool hat things that were yellow. I like the different cultures. I like to learn about them.